All right, solubility is all about whether or not a substance can dissolve in something else. Now, on the left, you see this pink stuff dissolving in a clear liquid. Perhaps it's water, but you see it kind of spreading out. If we swirl this or mix this some more, the whole thing would probably become pink. This, assuming it's water, is something that we would call a solution. So oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes our solvent, the main stuff in our container, the majority of the stuff in our container, is water. And that will dissolve other things if it's soluble. So here's water also, down at the bottom. These are a bunch of little water molecules. And these little particles sitting on top are what we know as oil. And we know oil and water don't mix. We're going to talk about why they don't mix later on in the year. But all you need to know right now is that oil is not something that's going to dissolve, going to spread out in the solvent water. It will dissolve in some other substances, but not water. So solubility is just kind of a measure about how well things dissolve in each other. So if you look at this screen here, we're talking about degrees of solubility. So if something is soluble, period, it means it completely dissolves in a particular solvent. And we often call this a solution. Now, if it's partially soluble, that means some of it dissolves, but not all of it. So a little bit of it dissolves. And if it's insoluble, that means it does not dissolve. No matter how much you stir, this sand is not going to dissolve in that water. No matter how much you stir, the oil is not going to dissolve in the water. So some things do not dissolve. We call them insoluble. Now, some things could dissolve in one substance, but not in another. Look at this, for instance. Here's section 9 of a particular substance's SDS sheet. Section 9 tells you the physical and chemical properties. So here we see a line that tells us about solubility. This says soluble acids. That means it is soluble. It will dissolve in acids. But look at what it says about water. It says insoluble in water. So if you take this substance, whatever it is, and I'm purposely not giving you the name of this chemical because you don't need to know right now, but this particular chemical, by looking at the SDS sheet, you now know you can dissolve it in an acid, but you're going to be out of luck if you try to dissolve it in water. It's not going to dissolve. It's either going to sink to the bottom or it's going to float at the top. Now, you can look up the solubility of pure substances. Just look at the SDS sheets, just like we did here, and it's always going to give you information about the solubility. We'll talk about solubility quite a bit later on in the year, but this is at least a couple words that you should know. Soluble and insoluble. Know what they mean.